Let me share my screen.
Good morning, Kawtharani. Hi.
Hi,
Very
hi, Sabiha. How you
very
doing?
nice to see you. Yeah, I'm doing great. Just a request. Is it possible for you to put in the chat what are the things as an attendee we need to keep ready? Like, do we use VS Code or do we have to open up our AWS account and keep it ready? So, whatever you need, if you can put it there, it'll be easy for us.
Perfect, perfect. So, for anyone who's gonna follow along, as simple as that, you just get your IDE ready. So, your IDE ready. Whether you are using VS Code, PyCharm, you will be coding in Python. So, whether you are using VS Code, PyCharm, Cursor, etc., uh, just we are going to be starting literally from scratch. So let me write them actually. IDE ready, and of course get your credentials, get like any kind of access to AWS account. Since you are going to be utilizing Bedrock, so like you need access to AWS account. Okay. We can work with any region which has access to Bedrock, but like I will be using US East one. So yeah. And guys, like let me say that as well. Like I will be pushing all the codes to GitHub and will be sharing it with you after this session immediately. So if you want to just like follow along with me and then you want to do this workshop on your own, that will be totally fine. Like as you will have access to the recording and you will have the access to the code on GitHub. Thanks, Abdurrahman. Sure. Let me share my screen. Guys, can you please confirm that you can see my screen? Sure. So, just before directly going to start building our MCP server, let me go through a very small brief about agentic AI, why Strands Agents, what are we going to be building. Then I can open the stage for Q&As before we start actually building our first MCP. Sounds good? And guys, please, let's keep this session interactive. I can see like we are a small group, so we can discuss, we can talk as we go, of course. Okay, perfect. So for the agenda, I will be starting with the agentic flow. So how did we come to agents? What are agents? The difference between LLM and then between the LLM and agents. Then we are going to talk about MCPs, why and what. Then we are going to talk about the framework to build these MCPs, which Strands Agents. What are the key components? How we can get started. And after that, we are going to discuss the architecture we will be building. Again, like it's gonna be really fun use case which we are going to be tackling. Again, like Q&A before we jump into building. So as a recap for the agentic flow, basically we know one of the limitations of LLMs is that they can't take actions. So for example, if I ask ChatGPT now, summarize this report and send an email to my manager with the key insights, it won't be able to send the email. Why? Simply because it doesn't have an access to a tool which gives it the power to send an email. That's being said, this was a huge limitation. We overcome it with agents and we were able to develop or build tools and provide it to these agents to be able to execute, right? Uh, you can think about tools as querying data, executing functions, invoking APIs, etc. You name it. So the agent or the LLM will have access to these tools. The way it's gonna execute these tools, it's gonna think about what it should execute. So first step is think. Second step is action, which take an action like invoking, querying data, etc. Then observation. So I want to look into what are the results or what are the consequences, what I'm returning back from each tool when I query data. What is the data I have queried? And then if that's good enough to respond back to the user, I will respond it back. If I'm still need something, if I need something more to do, I will think again, I will take again an action, and I will execute if needed to get back to the user. So simply, this is the agentic flow. Again, it's a loop between think, action, observe. We have access to these tools. Memory is always powerful to the agents to keep in mind what is user talking about and all of this stuff. Now, what and why model context protocols or MCPs? Now, the way we think about it, like when I want to structure my application and when we started to build agents, it was hectic to manage the tools. And it was, you wanted to really instruct the model on every single detail about this tool and how to invoke it. And if you have multiple agents and multiple tools, okay, let's say I have a browsing tool, which is search the internet, and I have multiple agents which are utilizing these tools. We needed a unified way to have these multiple agents accessing this specific tool with all of its instructions on how to use and what it's going to be returned, right? And this is where MCP comes to the play. MCP is simply segregating the agent and the tool. And when we talk about the agent, it's gonna live in what we call the MCP client, which is the main interface for the AI system or for my AI application. So my AI application or my agent will be living in the MCP client, and it will has access to the external resources or tools which are exposed from the MCP server. So MCP server will have basically will has all or it will be exposing all the tools, resources, or prompts to these AI clients, which are again the agents will be utilizing these tools. Uh, Going this way, if I have different agents, if I have different clients, I can give them very simple access to the MCP servers, or the tools which are exposed from these servers, and I can have it in a unified way. Okay, guys, again, please, if you have any questions, concerns, just like interrupt me, ask it, okay? Okay, great. So mainly within the MCP server, we have three types of tools or resources to be utilized, which are first the tools itself. Tools mainly it's about an execution for a function which interact again with an external system. This tool can be, let's say, querying a database, let's say putting in a database, let's say invoking an API, etc. You name it. Resources you can think about a resource as a GET request, right? Where I need to access specific files or specific databases or like kind of metadata. I'm going to give you an example about a resource, let's say user metadata. So whenever a user is interacting with a chatbot, I would like to pass a user metadata to this chatbot so he's aware about the background of the user, okay? About his preferences, about his, let's say, his region, anything that would make sense to my use case. Instead of passing this as a tool, I would do it as a resource where I would get these metadata and pass it along to my MCP client. Prompts are simply reusable templates and fragments where, again, this MCP client can utilize for specific cases. I can hear the sound of questions, so someone isn't able to see the screen share. Yes. Yes, Sabih, please.
Hi. So just to clarify, the client is our application, correct?
It's
And
basically, yeah.
I mean, we will be using the MCP client and it will hit an MCP server, and the tools are like whatever we want to talk to. Maybe it is an AWS system we want to address, and resources is like the API body which we give, something like that.
Yes, exactly, Sabiha. So the MCP client is my AI application, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say if I have a user interface, this will come in this place, which is will be interacting with my MCP client,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now,
Yeah.
this MCP client, uh, it can interact with resources like as in, again, like as a get. So I'm getting a kind of metadata, I'm getting a specific document. If user is admin, I'm getting a specific document, etc. Tools are which tools I'm exposing tools for MCP client to choose from and interact with. Now, of course, tools we'll be utilizing them as we build, so it will be very clear for you guys in terms of how I'm gonna utilize these tools, how the client or the agent thinks about tools and ideate and choose what tools to be utilized.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thanks. Okay. Let's get continued. Uh, okay. Now, let's talk a bit about the technology behind MCP client and the server. How do they communicate, etc. They communicate using JSON RPC, and it's a two-way communication. Why it's a two-way communication? At the beginning, the server, of course, is exposing lists, tools, sorry. So it's exposing a list of tools, right? When the client is connected, it's able to read these tools. So it will send like, okay, I want access to these tools. The MCP server will list it, and then the MCP client would say, okay, I want to utilize this tool. This is, for example, my body. It will be again JSON RPC going to the MCP server. The MCP server will actually execute the tool, execute the function, get back to the client with the responses. So, of course, two-way communication is needed, and it's happening using JSON RPC. Now, this is about the communication. What about the transport layer options? We have mainly three transport layer options. One is standard input output, and this is mainly utilized for testing purposes and for development. Uh, for standard input output, I'm not actually segregating the MCP client and the MCP server. What I'm doing basically, I'm running them in both on one instance both. However, I'm segregating, if you want, the structure of them. I'm having the MCP client structured alone. I'm having the MCP server structured alone, but they are running together. Now, again, we will see this in action. When I'm actually going to segregate, and have different servers or different instances for client and server, I would utilize either SSE or streamable HTTP. Now, the good thing that Strands support both, uh, there's no huge difference in terms of capabilities and what like setting up these transport layer options. So it's only about how where actually the JSON RPC is being transported between the client and the server. We can discuss that further in details, what to choose and when. Okay. Perfect. Let's continue to strands. So we have talked about MCPs, we have talked about agents, but how to build those? And is it like, okay, there are lots of theories, there are lots of, it may seem complicated. Like, is it really complicated? It's very simple, to be honest. It's really simple. Using these frameworks like Strands, and like there are lots of different open source uh, frameworks. Of course, Strands is an open source framework. It comes by model first design, so you can simply define an agent with just a simple model. You don't even need to give it prompt or tools, like very simple. Just give it what model I want to, and I can build an agent. Uh, you can see like very quick start. We can really see that in action. It's very nice. Uh, of course, Bedrock support, streamable and non-streamable replies. So I can have this fancy streams being shown. Built-in context and memory, so you don't have to worry about how I'm gonna save my sessions, how to manage that. All of this is just like a built-in capabilities from Strands. Tooling via MCPs. So to build the MCP server, of course, I need a kind of tools, right? I need to build tools. And these tools, again, come out of the box with Strands. Universal deployment, so you can run it locally or like you can Dockerize it. Even like now, we have seen like actual deployments with AWS Lambda functions. So all of these can live in a couple of Lambda functions if you want to segregate server and client and server. Observability is very important because like you really need to know what's happening within your agent. If like you need to have a full observability over what's happening, how my agent is thinking, what tools are being executed, how tools are being executed, etc. Pre-built agents and samples. So like there are lots of agents out of the box which you can use, like calculators, knowledge retrievers, blah blah blah. We have lots, like you can just get in and you can start working with it. For development languages, you can have we have like with Strands, Python and TypeScript, so we can utilize whatever we want. Yes, let me get back to that chat because like I think we have a question. So is the recording shared later? Yes, I think organizers will be sharing the recording, but of course you can then, yeah. Okay, sure. Okay. Perfect, perfect. It's either I'm doing a very good job or like it's a really bad job. Let's see. Now when we start building, you will see it.
You're
Okay.
doing a very good job. Please continue.
Okay. Great. Great. Okay. Perfect. So what are we going to be building? the use case is basically we want to build one chat gateway for AWS user group help. Okay, so one place where anyone wondering about AWS user group can come and ask, right? It can help with answers, event workflows. We don't have any kind of a human triage, so instant community joy. We don't want to bother Sabiha or Abdurrahman anymore. It's like just an AI agent which is doing lots of work. The personas we are talking about, we have an attendee. So I want an info and I want to do an RSVP. So I want to attend, of course. As a speaker, I want to submit a talk and idea. For a sponsor, I want to explore tiers and signs up. So I want to check, okay, what if I want to sponsor this event? What are the pricing, for example? I want to, what I would take in benefits, etc. And for the core team, of course, they want a kind of structured leads. Who is going to attend? Who's willing to give a speak? Who's going to sponsor? And all of this. Okay. So for the agent key capabilities, now, of course, we have talked about the use case and overview. Let's now match it to the technical capabilities. We need to be able to search docs. We need to be able to list events, to handle Q&As, handle speaker application, sponsor application, RSVP, and reminders. Does it sound good? Any questions, concerns about the agent we are going to build? Nope. Great. So let's talk about the MCP client and MCP server architecture. We will have an MCP client, which is AWS User Group Support Agent. Within the MCP server, I will have different tools like search docs, list upcoming events, event Q&As, speaker application, sponsor application. Okay. Okay, perfect. Let me open my my cursor now and start sharing my screen.
Just a small question. So you are going to build your own MCP server now?
Yes, we are going to build the MCP server and the MCP client, right? So we want to have the full flow working and we want to see how this is gonna work together.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, guys. Starting, as you can see, like it's just an empty directory. I only have my requirements. Okay. I will paste the requirements in the chat as well, so you are well aware about it. It's basic. You can see my screen. I don't need to zoom in or anything like that, right? Or like, is it preferably to zoom in?
Yeah, can you please zoom in a little bit?
Yes,
Since
sure.
Yeah.
Appearance and then zoom in. Okay. Let me do another one as well. Appearance, zoom in. Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, great. So I have my Strands agents. Okay. Second. Okay. So I have my requirements. I have my Strands agents. I have the tools, and I have Fast MCP. Okay. Now, I usually prefer to start with the server because it's the client, as you will see, it's very simple. It's just defining the agent. So the server actually is what usually would require more work, I would say, since you are setting up the tools, you are setting up the utils, you are setting what you are going to connect into, right? So let's start with the server. I'm just gonna do new and I'm gonna do main.py. Okay. Now we would need, of course, to start, I would need to set up an MCP server. So I would say from mcp.server import fast MCP. And fast MCP is one of the most popular basically frameworks to build MCPs, right? Okay, now I have imported fast MCP. My next step would be MCP equal to the fast MCP. Again, I'm just defining my MCP server, and I would give it a name like AWS user group. Let's call it MCP server, right? Let me make sure that my requirements are installed. Pip install requirements. Sorry for that. Okay. Okay. Sure. Okay, perfect. Okay, now I have defined my MCP, right? This is I actually started an MCP server. Now what I want to define are the tools, right? So let's start with mcp.tool. Now to give a tool, like to start that tool, it's preferable to give it a description. Now why do we need to give it a description? Because I want to know I want to give my agent a description for this tool and when to utilize it, right? So let's start with the get documents tool. Get documents, it will get user group info for different personas that we have. Okay, so I will say get AWS user group info for, it's either an attendee, let's say, speaker, or sponsor. Okay, let me close this. Now I have defined a tool. Now, what is actually a tool? It's very simply, it's a function. So I will say get docs. Okay, again, I'm just defining a tool and give it a doc type, what I'm asking for, right? And okay, what I will do, let's just like for simplicity, I will add another file containing this doc, and I will say like results or like, sorry, result equal to, let's name it docs dot get. And if I give it doc type, let me make sure it's lower. Okay, and then return result. Okay, now as simple as that. And now we need, of course, to define docs. Okay, for simple, like again, I want to keep my MCP server very simple. So let me add, for example, docs.py, and we can in here, let's define docs. So as we have said, like we have given basically three types, which are attendee, speaker, sponsor. Cursor is suggesting that. And for attendee, let's say, okay, now, of course, in here we are just mocking a scenario, right? In yours and in your use case, this can be a RAG implementation. It may be reading from a specific database, which is Dynamo, RDS, you name it, right? So for attendee, let's say register at meetup.com. Abu Dhabi, or let me copy it actually from Meetup. So up. So register at meetup.com, Abu Dhabi AWS user group events. This is for an attendee, right? Again, you can do whatever function you want. This is only a kind of mock. For speaker, okay, now if you are interested in a speaker, let's say you can have, or like you can apply for a 25 minutes talk, submit at least, let's say, 4 weeks early. Okay. For sponsor, we can say, okay, let's say we have 3 tiers. Gold, let's give it a price, for example, for 1,000 dirham. Okay, whatever cursor is suggesting. Okay, here's again my docs. So going back to my main, let me just import from docs, import docs. Okay, now that's being said, so far what we have built an MCP server, we have built an MCP tool which get you documents, right, for an either attendee or a speaker or a sponsor. Now, let's start with the client, right? Let's look into how a client would look like, and if we give it only access to this, or like if we attach it to this basically server. So let's do main.py as well. Okay, now in here, since as we have said, like for my transport layer, it's going to be standard input output. So I need to start with a client. I want to get the standard input output parameters, standard input output server parameters as well. So I'm just gonna do MCP dot client dot standard input output, and then I would say import standard input output underscore client and standard input output server parameters. Okay. Now I have imported actually the main two components to build the client and to connect to my server. Now on the side, of course, within my client, I have my agent, which is thinking, which is executing the tools, etc. So I also need to import from Strands import agent, right? Okay, I would also need to basically import from Strands. Okay, and I will explain the differences from Strands dot tools dot mcp underscore client import MCP client. Okay, in here I'm importing Strands MCP client, right? So of course I want a client and I want an agent. I have the MCP as an MCP client, and I want this to be a Strands MCP client. Now also one thing that actually I've forgotten is basically this agent is running by a model, right? By a Bedrock model. So I need also to import from Strands dot model dot models import bedrock model. Okay, perfect. Okay. Now, I have the MCP client, I have the stance model, I have my stance agent, and I have everything ready to start basically. Okay. Let's start with basically setting the connection, the transport connection between the client and the server. I would say define a create underscore standard input output transport layer, and then I would need to give it server params, right? And then here I would say command equal to Python. Now, if, for example, let's say if my, of course, if my server was in another language, I would give it another command. Definitely, like it depends on which client, which language I'm utilizing. So, and of course, I need to return back the standard input output underscore client based on the server params that we have defined. Okay. Server params. Okay. Now, again, let us look on what we have done so far. I have imported a client MCP client library. I have imported the Strands MCP client library. I have imported Bedrock model. I have imported agents, Strands agents. I have defined the transport layer, okay, and how my client will interact with my server. And I've said like, okay, this is going to happen on the standard input output. I've given it what, like how to connect to my server. I'm saying like, run this command, which is Python, and I'm giving it what to run, which is the my server.main. Okay. Okay. Before I continue, is there anything which is like any kind of issues? Let's do Python interpreter. Okay.
It's good so far, but if anybody has questions, please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Sunny here. Uh, I'm not guessing. I am not aware about many basic things about AI as well. Apart from what is MCP server, like what is Strands, what is the function create studio transport going to do with. So few things are going above head. So before using what is what does it does in detail a bit would be better.
Sure. So if I get the question correctly, is basically we need to know more about strands. We need to know more about the agents, the clients in details, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Yes. Now,
So
strands is
like
again
I'm
like
not getting like why. Sorry to interrupt. Like from MCP client.studio, you're only importing two libraries. So why those two libraries specifically? Like so that's as well.
sure, sure. Okay. Let us relook into our client. Okay. Uh, Again, to build the client, what do I need? I need let's start with the simple things first. I need a Strands MCP client, right? I want to define that this is Strands MCP client. I need an agent, the agent which is thinking, which is executing, which is running on an LLM, which is an Amazon Bedrock model. Okay, so for these three, of course, like Strands, again, not a Strands. Strands is the framework which making this easy to build, right? Now, what I'm importing Bedrock model is the LLM, which is mainly running my agent. Agent is have accessibility to the tools, and all of this are basically running within a Strands MCP client. Okay. Now, for the MCP client itself, we need to set a transport layer. How this transport layer will happen? We have chosen standard input-output layer, which is basically simply I'm running the server inside my client. Okay. To define this layer, very simply, I'm just creating this function, which is create a standard input-output transport. When this is basically created, I would have my standard input client. Makes sense now? Better?
Yep. Thank
No worries, you're most welcome. Thanks for asking. Okay, perfect. Now let's go to basically create the Bedrock model, right? Of course, I need a Bedrock model to again to start with the agent. So I'd say like Bedrock model, or like, sorry, let's Bedrock underscore model equal to Bedrock model. And then I need to pass it mainly two things, which are the model ID. And since I don't want to face any throttling issues, I would say us.Anthropic load. I'm using Anthropic load 3.5. Let me just double check that the ID is correct. It is. Okay. And then we need, it's preferable to give the region name. For me, it's going to be US East 1. Okay, as simple as that. I'm just defining the Bedrock model that I'm going to use. So what is the LLM? What is the main engine behind my agent? So far, so good. Okay. Okay, perfect. Now, I have defined my Bedrock model. What comes next? The agent, right? I have defined how my client is going to interact with the server. I have defined my Bedrock model, and now sorry.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say try. Oh, we have set up a client, right? So I'm gonna try with my okay. First, we need to basically set up the client, of course. For that, sorry. So I'm gonna say the standard input output. Let's call it MCP underscore client equal MCP client, and create the standard input output transport.
Can I interrupt a little bit? I have a question. So you have selected Anthropic from Bedrock, right? So do we have to do any kind of setting in AWS account?
That's a very good point. We need to have access to it. Let me share my my account. and tell you on this as well. Thanks for asking, Sabia. Okay. You can see my my AWS account as well, right?
Yes.
Coming up, yes. Okay. Let us go to, so from the AWS account, I'm gonna go to Amazon Bedrock.
We need to enable these model, enable this model, right?
100%. In the last, we have model access, right? If I press into model access, you can see the different base models that we can utilize using Amazon Bedrock. If I want to modify model access, I would come here, go to Claude, and like, for example, in my case, I have access to most of them, but like if it's not enabled, just enable whatever model you want to use, and then next. Okay, there's no changes made, but like you can just next and save to get
So just
the
to clarify,
access to what
so
models.
if you're a new AWS user, none of this will be access enabled. So you will have to manually enable the access to whatever model you're using. So if you're a first time user, never used Bedrock, you might have to check this setting before you do that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mohammed.
Yeah, thank you, Sabia. Yeah, so yes, guys, if you want to use one of the models, you just need to modify the model access and enable whatever model you want to utilize. Okay. Okay, guys. So we have set up our standard output MCP client, and this again we are using the MCP client which coming from Strands. So I'm saying like, okay, I want this to be a Strands MCP client, and I'm doing a connection to my server using standard input output server. Okay, now what we want to do is basically to set up the actual connection, to get the tools, and then to build an agent, give the agent these tools and run it. So I'm gonna say try with standard input output MCP client. I don't need to connect. So only with standard input output MCP client, I'm gonna list the tools. Tools equal to standard input output underscore MCP client dot list underscore tools underscore sync. So again, what happened right now, I'm saying, okay, you have this MCP client, go to this MCP client and ask it what are the exposed tools that you have, right? If I go back to the server, we have built a server and we have exposed a tool which called get docs. Let's go back to the client. I'm saying, get me the tools, and then of course, what I need to do now as building the agent with these tools, I'm gonna say first take the model, which is Bedrock model we have built, right? And then tools equal simply to tools. Okay. Now I have an agent which is basically defined using Amazon Bedrock and the tools which we have. Okay, perfect.
Where can I get the model ID from? Like, sorry to interrupt. Where can I get the model ID from? Where should I copy it from?
Sure. Again, I have Amazon Bedrock here, right? If I come to model catalog, I have again all the model ID, all the models which are accessible and listed on Amazon Bedrock, right? I have access, for example, to, let's say I want to utilize Claude Sonnet 3.52. I would come here and I would check basically all the details for Anthropic Claude 3.5, and I would also see the I should also see the model ID, and I would be able to copy it. So in here, for example, you can see categories, last version, release date, and model ID. I simply can copy model ID and I paste it into my code. So for example, let's say if I want to use, I have V1 listed. So if I want to use V2, I'm just gonna paste the ID and save. Again, the US in here added is basically to enable cross-region. So I'm not only limited to US East one. However, I can, for example, if East one is throttling, I can go to US East 2, etc. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So I have now I have defined the agent. Right. Now what I need to do is basically to run this agent. To run this agent, I would say, for example, let's say result equal to agent, not dot run agent, and just give it a user input, which let's say hello in this case. And then I would, let's say, print result. Okay, just to look into the result. Of course, we're gonna make it more interactive, but for now, let's just do this, and we will improve it as we go. If I faced, of course, I have added try. If I faced any error, let's just print the error. Okay. Now, again, before we move in, let's just look into what we have built so far. Okay. We have started with a server. Very simply, for the server, we have gotten up an MCP, an fast MCP server. I'm importing from docs. I'm importing some kind of docs that we have just created for attendee, speaker, sponsor, and then for the MCP tool, we have created an MCP tool which is get docs. The description of it is to get AWS user group info for attendee, speaker, or sponsor. Okay. I'm simply returning from docs. I'm simply returning by doc type. Going back to my client side, we have imported basically the standard input output client. So to be able to define a standard input output client, we have imported the standard input output server params to set up the server side, to set up the transport layer from the server with the server side. We have imported Bedrock model to create Amazon Bedrock model as the main engine behind my agent. We have imported agent to basically run it, to be able to run it, to run a thinking Bedrock model, and to be able to provide it with tools. And we have an MCP client as well from Strands, because of course this is a Strands MCP client. I'm setting up the transport layer. Again, I'm using standard input output because since we are experimenting around. I'm using Bedrock model. So I have the model ID and the region name. I'm setting up my MCP client using the standard input output transport. After that, with this standard input output MCP client, I'm fetching the tools from the server. I'm passing these tools to my agent, and I'm saying hello, and I'm printing results. Okay, so what I want to run is my MCP client, right? So I would say Python client main, and I hope we don't run into any surprises. Yeah. Let me check what's up. Create field. And start. Get results. Connection was closed. Let me check it 1 second. What we have missed. Okay, we are defining standard input output. So here, just like defining the standard input server params. Okay, and then we have the bedrock model. We have the standard input MCP client. So is the MCP client as well. Ta ta ta. And then I'm trying with the standard input MCP client to list the tools. Okay. Yes, please. Now you will have to choose whether to utilize SSE or uh, another transport layer options. So it's your choice. Like now, the good thing again with Strands, you have this flexibility to choose from. But can you have them both running at the same time? Uh, it, to elaborate about the use case so I can help more if you want.
Yeah, hi. My name is Isa. So the question is, for example, if you're using Cloud Desktop, you would have your configurations where you would put in STDIO as well as your normal SSE MCP servers. Then the
Sure.
client decides on how to connect to those servers, and based on the user's input, it would choose that particular tool. Because in the code, if you're going to specify independently, then it gets difficult to specify those servers. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Can you go again? I'm really sorry.
Okay,
Mhm.
so typically, let's say in Cloud Desktop, you would
Mhm.
have one single configuration where you would enlist your STDIO as well as your SSE servers, correct?
Yes.
And then the client itself consumes that particular configuration file and then lists those tools within the application itself.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Um, but here, what I can see is that we are specifically creating individual clients, and we have to specify what is the kind of client. Um, okay, then let me rephrase. Does this mean that we need to parse the configuration file, understand what kind of client it is, and choose the library specifically?
Okay. So again, here you are setting up your MCP client, right?
Yeah.
It's not like that you have an MCP client and you are connecting it to a server. You
Got
are
it.
setting up your MCP client. That's being said, you need to define how your MCP client and your MCP server would communicate on which transport layer.
Got it.
So to answer it, yes, we would need to set up these configurations for our clients to know how to connect to our server. Makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, because there's already it's abstract library. The STDIO client is abstract library. I'm sure there's so many other things that it would do under the hood. I was just expecting that there would be another abstract version which, would encapsulate both the STDIO and SSE. But that's fine. I understand now. Yeah, we
Of
need to
course.
maintain each individual connections.
Yep. Yes. Yes. We need to maintain the connections. We can look into other things, maybe like uh, can do some. It can show some kind of encapsulations, but like again, like we need to configure that from our side.
Understood. Understood. I have another question as well. I don't
Please.
want to flow, really interrupt your flow as well. Um, we have the MCP tools, so you can enlist the tools and then you can pass down to the library, correct? Um,
Yes.
what if I want to have my standard tools that comes out of Strands, or I create my custom tools? Can I pass them as well? Can I
Of,
somehow merge?
of course, you can pass them. However, you should define them as a Strands tools, right? Because at the end of the day, this is being transformed into a tool which Strands framework would be understanding.
Got it. So you could do that as
So
well.
yes, it's doable. So for example, let's say if I want to create other tools, not from a specific MCP server, that would happen. And one use case
No,
is
no,
like,
what I meant was, sorry, what I meant was I want to merge both the tools, the ones that comes from the MCP client and my custom tools as well.
of course, definitely. Again, like in here, you are giving a list of tools, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yes, you can definitely do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries, you are most welcome. Okay, let me look again into this. I don't sure that finally accept an error occurred, and here you get an exception. Sorry for that. Just let me test it again. Check what's the error. Why the client initialization is failing? Timing out. Background. That's it. Yeah. I'm defining in here the first MCP server. Okay. Think fancy. Ta, ta, ta. Okay,
Have we hard coded your accounts, AWS account access and secret key?
I will double check, but let me. Okay, let me just debug it with cursor. What's up with this? Ta, ta, ta. And meanwhile, I will be double checking my credentials. If it's a credential, I don't think it's credential issues because, okay, and indicate the client is failing to initialize. It's examining. Okay. Oh my God. I forgot just to run the server. So, okay, thanks, Claude. Okay. So, of course, when you have the server, you of course, like what's happening within the client is basically running the Python main. So I forgot to add the run for the server. Okay. Let me clear and then we will just run again. So again, what I'm passing for the agent is just like a hello. Now, again, we expect this to happen. Okay, now it listed the tools and it's saying like, okay, strands, tools, etc. And this is why, like, when our friend asked the question, I said like, okay, but however, it has to be a strands tools because this agent, which is a strand agent, will only get basically a strands tools. Okay, now the fun part begins. It's saying, hello, I'm here to help you with information about AWS user groups. I can provide details about attendees, speakers, or sponsors. What you would like to know. And then, like, since I shouldn't have printed this, it's already printed, so it's repeating itself. Okay. Okay. Great. That's really great. The good part, like, it was able to know about the MCP server. And if you see here, when defining the agent, I haven't passed any kind of prompts, right? So there's no prompts, there's no instructions. And on its own, from one single description, it was able to understand how to react and how to interact with the user, right? Okay, now let's continue building. Okay, that's okay. Now that's being said, with that interaction, we were able to build this whole architecture. We were told, or like set up this whole architecture, starting from a server, client, and so server, client, and one tool. Again, let me pause here. Is there any kind of question, concern before we get continued? No. Okay. Yes, let's continue. Okay, perfect. Now, to make this more interactive, okay, I would need to basically interact with it in my terminal. So I'm just like, I don't want to go through this, but like very simply, I'm just handling the input output. We are still doing same thing. So same standard input output transport, same Bedrock model, same client, same tools, everything. I'm just like now handling user input from the terminal. So if I do now Python client name, client main, okay, it will say chat started, type exit or quit to end the conversation, and a user. So I would say hi, and it's saying welcome to AWS group information service, etc. Again, there's no any kind of prompts, etc. Not at all. It's all about the server itself. I would say, for example, let's say get me info for speaker, right? If I go back to my docs just to review it, it's saying you can apply for 25 minutes talks, submit at least 4 weeks early. And here you can see like the user is get me info about for speaker. It's like certainly I would be happy. And then what it utilized tool, which is get docs. And this is basically the tool from the server, which is called get docs. And it utilized, of course, a speaker. And it's saying, okay, here's what I have found. Talk duration, it's 25 minutes talk. Submission timeline, it's important to submit at least 4 weeks before. It added some other kind of info. So this is really nice. I'll just do exit for now. So goodbye. Let's add more tools. Now I have my whole structure ready, so I can start giving more tools, and let's look together into how the agent basically will be utilizing different tools. Again, guys, if you have any questions, please let me know so we can discuss it together.
I have a question. Maybe you
Please.
covered it and I just lost track. How is it getting all this information of 4 weeks and all that? Submit at least 4 weeks.
Sure. So we have like again, let's look into my server structure. Okay, this is my MCP server, which has a tool. The tool is called get docs. Simply, it's just fetching docs from docs. If I come to docs, I have a speaker documents and saying like you can apply for a 25 minutes talk, submit at least 4 weeks early. And this is what it fetched. It fetched speaker documents, which are basically this.
Okay.
So we were able to utilize the tool to get the documents.
Thank you.
You are most welcome. Okay, guys. Okay, so everything clear. We can continue. Now let's do a kind of list events. So I want first, let's define what events do we have. Let's say we have a couple of events, and I want to ask about a specific event, right? So let's say events in here, let's do a list, and let's give for each an ID. ID, let's say Meetup 14, I guess for now, and then a title for the meetup. Title. Now it is build your first MCP, or like Strands MCP. Strands MCP. And then let's add a speaker. And then here I'm gonna say Mohamad Kawtharani. And let's give a date as well. Date. So today is my number. Okay. Let me see what it added. So exactly 17.9. Let's add another event. Okay. Okay. Let's add another event and say ID again. Meetup 15. Let's give it another title. Now instead of let's do okay title, instead of MCP, let's for example say let's give it a title containers, maybe. So containers on AWS. Speaker, let's say not announced, NA. And then date, let's say we have a confirmed date, and I don't know, guys, you choose. Instead of 7, let's do let's do 8, and then instead of 19, let's do a 5, for example. Okay. These are 2 events. And I want to add even more details about specific events. So if I say event details, let me do it in text. Event underscore details. Okay. So let's start with Meetup 14. Meetup 14. Of course, this is gonna be by ID. Okay, it's captured everything. However, let's start adding, for example, let's say registration link. And let's add as well how many peoples are registered. Registered. Let's say 50, or like no. I actually saw 50 people registering, so let's say 50. We can add something more. What do we add more? Here. Okay. We can add like as much as we needed, but I think this is more than enough. Can you please do me? Okay. I'm just gonna keep it for cursor as well to give me suggestions. And let's say this is not opened yet, or like 10, let's say. Okay. Okay. And here what I'm trying to do, let's say in here events. Okay. And here what I'm trying to do, I'm adding only my docs. Okay. And I will create basically tools to read from these docs. Okay. And then here I want to show you basically a loop in terms of how an agent would think. Let me start by, okay. Let's start now by building another tools. I need actually 2 tools. I need a tool to list event, and I need a tool to get details about a specific event. Okay. So let's again go with mcp.tool and get event details for a given event. Okay, given event ID, and in here let me add event details as well and add events. Okay, so this is basically the MCP tool description. Get event details for a given event ID. Given event ID, I'm passing basically the event ID, and I'm saying result event details. Get basically all the details. Okay. Perfect.
What about the tool events?
Now we will start with the get events. So
Okay.
get AWS events, get all, let's say scheduled events and return events. Okay. Now what I would like to ask it, okay, I want to ask about about a detail in an upcoming event, let's say, so the model would execute different tools and get me the answer. Okay, so let's clear again. Let's open this. Let's interact. I have the event, right? This is Meetup 14. This is Meetup 15. And I have the event details link. Okay. So what I want to say, first let me run my client.
And in the client, do we have to make any changes in the code?
Not at all. This is the really good thing. Like, unless you need to switch instructions, right? You don't have to do any kind of changes in the code. I'm actually I'm exposing more tools to the agent. That's it.
So you can have lots of tools in the server and you just have to connect to that server through the client and you can get anything from the server, any of the tools.
100%. So, like, okay, the question I would say, like, okay, how many people are registered for? Okay, what I'm gonna ask in here is basically for the next, or like for the first upcoming event, Okay, now when I ask this, what the agent should first look into the tools that it has access to, which are get docs, get event details, and get events, right? It should utilize get events first to list all the events which are coming. Since we have date, it will know that the first event is the first upcoming one, and then it should go get the details for this upcoming event, passing the proper ID, and get me how many people are registered. Okay, so let's test that. Let's go back to main. Okay, so let's go first step by step. It's saying how many people are registered. Okay, to answer your question about how many people are registered, I will need to take a few steps using the available tools. First, let's get the list of events, and then we will look at the details. Tool number one, get events. So it's utilizing the events and saying, okay, thank you for providing the list of events. I can see the first upcoming event is ID Meetup 14, title, build your first Strands MCP, speaker, Mohamad Kawtharani, date, etc. Now let's get the details for this event to find out how many people are registered. And now it's utilizing the second tool, which is get event details. Now I have the information to answer your question. According to the event details, there are 50 people registered for the first upcoming event, which is etc., etc. And then finally it's asking, like, is there anything else you would know about this event or upcoming events? So, like, again, I'm showing you like the power of thinking of agent. It utilizes different tools to be able to answer me. Okay, That's
Can I
great.
ask,
Thank you.
quickly ask a question? So this
Please.
agent is using Anthropic to think, right? Or to answer?
Both actually, right? So the LLM is thinking and executing tools
Okay.
and
So
answering me, getting back to me.
okay, so do we have to set any temperature, any KP parameters for this agent, or is it just sticking to our documents and these tools here?
Now we can modify as much as we want from the Bedrock model, right? We can
Mhm.
define, for example, let's say guardrails. So I want my agent to be specifically answer specific topics. I can
Mhm.
set up guardrails. I want it to answer in a specific tone. I can set up instructions and the prompts. I want to increase my top K and my temperature for specific reasons. All of this can be set in as I want more customization for my LLM.
And you'll just
But
add them as parameters here when you are calling the.
I didn't set up anything. I'm only using the default ones.
Okay,
There is no instructions. There is no any kind of configurations at all.
got it, got
Okay,
it.
just like minimal setup,
Okay.
and it was able to do everything perfectly so far. Okay, amazing. Let's do exit for now. Okay, now I'm able to access my documents. I'm able to list events, have multi-steps executed by my agent. Amazing. Let's do actually one thing. Let's have a structured view on which speaker do you want, which speaker are being are interested in giving a talk, who are the sponsors, which sponsors are being applied, etc. Which sponsors are applying, and all of this. Again, I'm not gonna touch my documents. I'm not gonna touch my client. It's only about adding servers which are needed. Okay. Now to do so, I again like simply I will add a utils file. Let's do a utils file. This utils file, I would want to see my speakers sponsors listed in a CSV file. So log to CSV. Okay. Log to CSV application type, whether it's a sponsor or a speaker, event ID, and another keywords like for a speaker, I want timestamp, type, event ID, name of the speaker, topic he's interested to talk about. For a sponsor, I'm using a again timestamp, type, event ID, company, and tier. So as we have said, like we have the three tiers, as we have mentioned in our docs. Let me open docs. We have the three tiers, for example, gold, silver, and the bronze. Okay. Okay. Now I have added my utils. Let's utilize it in here. I'm gonna do from utils import log to CSV, and then now I want to like, and as you can see, like also cursor has is suggesting what I want to do. So let's start with apply to speaker. I'm gonna say add MCP tool. Instead of log application details, I would say in here or like apply to speak a at AWS user group events. Oops. Should provide, let's say, we need, of course, an event ID. So what event are you interested to give? And name and topic, right? Okay. Once I have those, let's do again simple function just to demonstrate it. Apply to speak. I have these 3N, and then log to CSV, and the application submitted successfully. Okay, so as simple as that, I have just added this basically speaker. Okay, cursor is suggesting also to add the tiers as well, to add the apply to sponsor. So I have apply to speak, I have apply to sponsor. I passing again event ID, the company name, the tier, and then return application submitted successfully. Okay, perfect. Let's clear. Let's run again. Okay, it wasn't, my client wasn't saved. Let me run again. Okay, perfect. So in here I have like, I can start demonstrating more full scenario. I would say first, let's say, hello, I'm interested in sponsoring an upcoming AWS meetup. Okay, so list me upcoming meetup events, and I would say also what tool to be utilized, and that's it. Let's say that's it. It should be utilizing more. Let's see. Now again, like, it's really fun to discover with this. First, of course, it went to get events for me. Okay, so tool number one, get events. Great, I have retrieved the information. We have 2 events coming. Meetup 14, Meetup 15, not announced, etc. There are 2 upcoming events that are currently scheduled. What could be potential? If you are interested, it can help me. Okay, I would say now, for example, okay, can you inform about the, let's say, sponsor packages or sponsorship packages? Okay, in here it should be utilizing another tool, which is get docs. So in here, like, I would be happy to provide you, is going to get the docs. And it's saying like, okay, thank you for your patience. I have retrieved it. 3 sponsorship tiers available, gold, etc. And finally, I would say, okay, perfect. Let's proceed with the containers event. My company name, let's say, is AWS user group, whatever company, and I'm interested in a gold package. Okay, now it should be able to understand like that the container package is the Meetup 15, my company name, my sponsorship tier, etc., event date. Now, as you can see, also it created a CSV file. So my logs is my document, my utils is being utilized. If I come here, it would say like the type is sponsor, Meetup. This is the company name, and it's a gold tier. So you can see as how simple it is to start adding, playing with tools, and getting all of this infrastructure ready for people to utilize it. I will try to exit right now, and I will open it for you guys. You were like, I didn't get any kind of, I didn't get lots of questions. So I would say, guys, think about edge use cases. So what are you wondering about this bot? Let's ask it some questions and see how it interacts with us. Oh, I can see a question and I can see a question in the chat. Mhm. Now, this is very good question. Okay. Now, you can see how I'm connecting to a server, right? I'm connecting to a server. Same way how I have connected to a server that I have created, I can connect to a server which AWS created, for example. And for this specific purpose, for RAG and for Bedrock knowledge bases, AWS created another server which called Amazon Bedrock knowledge bases server. I can connect to it, provided with the environment variables needed to set up my knowledge base, right? And I can start retrieving data utilizing Amazon MCP. So definitely we can do that, and it's really straightforward now with this all of the development of MCPs. Amazon now have different MCPs. I can share it with you guys for the list of MCP servers for Bedrock Age for knowledge base specifically RAG use cases. We have an MCP server ready. You don't have to deal all of this. It can make the process much simpler. Just plugging the server instead of main in here. I'm just gonna say Amazon Bedrock and I will have it here. Then I will basically retrieve from my knowledge base.
So instead of creating this whole MCP server from scratch, you will just connect it from your client to the AWS MCP already existing server. And in the docs, again, will you be specifying the databases?
Okay, it depends again on what the MCP server we are utilizing, right? So for example, for Amazon Bedrock knowledge bases specifically, you need, for example, to specify what is the knowledge base ID. And this is how we do it basically. We pass it via environment variables. So I can just pass it via environment variables. So for example, let's say instead of Python, let's say KB ID, right? I forget the exact ones. And in here, I would paste my actual knowledge base ID, which was created on Bedrock.
So whatever
Instead of
you have already created inside the Bedrock console, I just copy that ID and put here. I don't have to specify then anything in the docs section.
exactly, it will go and fetch basically documents from the knowledge base itself. You don't have to modify anything, right?
And in Bedrock, I can connect it to S3 or any other vector database, Aurora, or whatever I want.
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
What? Sorry. What about third parties services like Confluence? Jira's Confluence. So how
I
do we
have
do
seen
that?
like
Do we provide some API IDs in docs and all? What? How do we integrate that?
I have seen very nice work actually done with Confluence a couple of days ago, like for a company which has lots of documents. They have built a kind of small agent, a small agent to be utilized by their internal employees for any kind, for example, for policies, etc. And all of this was attached to Confluence docs using a MCP server, which is provided by Confluence itself. So lots of companies are exposing MCP servers, are developing MCP servers. So instead of you writing a server, you are just copying it. If modification needed, you can add it, but simply just passing your credentials, your access, your data to utilize the MCP server.
So where do we get the details like Confluence has provided an MCP server? Is that there in the Bedrock as well? That server,
It's
MCP server provided by Confluence itself?
okay. So when you search for MCP server, which is provided by Confluence, we need to search for Confluence servers, right? when we talk about Bedrock servers, are basically, for example, when it comes to knowledge base, they have released a server. It's basically on servers are basically being listed on GitHub. I can share with you a few links where basically you have lots of servers. You can go through them, you can skim it, etc.
And also, does Bedrock support Confluence as a knowledge source? Like, can we uh, create a knowledge base of Confluence in Bedrock?
I'm not sure if it's added directly. Let us check it together. So in here we have the knowledge bases. I know crawling is there, and like we can add some kind of knowledge bases through crawling. Let's with vector search. Say we have Confluence. So again, as simple as that, like you can create a Confluence knowledge base, and I will put in the chat basically Bedrock knowledge base MCP. Bedrock knowledge
Are these only
base.
6 available?
Sorry?
Are these only, there is something called custom as well, right? Okay, that's inside.
Custom. Yeah, so it's again a custom data source.
What if I want to
Customized.
do a database, maybe an RDS? Where do I go for that?
We have is three ways basically to create a knowledge base. It's either vector search or structured data stores, what you are asking about, or Kendra. Okay,
Thank
so it's if it's structured, you have for now Amazon Redshift as a base for now as the main query engine. Okay,
Thank you.
what if? Mhm.
So in this case, so what would be the flow like? In this case, you have to only create a client and use this KB as a tool, right?
Yes,
Knowledge
exactly.
base.
You will create. So if I'm using Amazon Bedrock knowledge base, right?
Uh,
Okay, let me open the Amazon Bedrock knowledge base as well, so I can show you guys how it can be done. Sure. Da, da, da. Okay. Second. Mm. Let's put in my documents.
If you're sharing your AWS screen, we are only seeing your code screen right now. Are you?
I'm actually searching for the Bedrock knowledge base. Bedrock knowledge base. A kind of documentation which shows basically how to integrate with Bedrock knowledge base. I'm not sure where is it. Okay, here it is. Okay. So for example, here is the base retrieval MCP server for Amazon Bedrock knowledge base, right? So again, it's a server for accessing Bedrock knowledge base and get the data. It has different features like what discovering knowledge bases and their data sources, querying knowledge bases with natural language, filter results. It's re-rank results This is really enhance your RAG pipelines. It's giving us the prerequisites, the requirements, if you need to have a ranking requirements. Okay, and this is basically how you set up your MCP server. Okay, uh, of course you need to clone the GitHub repo. You have it in you. Let's say you have it, and then you are, and this is you are running, instead of running, I was using Python, for example, to run my server. Instead, in here, you are using UVX, and you are running basically the AWS Labs Bedrock knowledge base. And in here, as I have mentioned, like you are passing environment variables, like your AWS profile, region, the log level if you want to log, and the KP inclusion tag, and Bedrock KP ranking enabled if you want to have a ranking enabled or disabled. You can also run it in a Docker, but like again, it's very simple to just connect to this MCP server and utilize it instead of building your own server. I will paste this in chat as well, so you have access to it. Okay. Okay. Guys, I'm still waiting some cool questions to check how the model would react on it based on our use case. So, anyone? Any fun question?
Can that be a question? How can I volunteer for the events?
Okay, like that's a great question, and like it's an edgy question since like we don't have anything about volunteering, right? So
Yeah.
let's say how I would volunteer for the event or for the upcoming event. To help you volunteer, etc., get events. Thank you. Okay, it mentioned what is the upcoming event, and it's saying like to volunteer as a speaker. You can apply as a speaker. However, before I proceed, I need this information. So it linked volunteer to speaking, since we don't have anything about volunteering and we have only about speakers. Now, if I want to enforce that or to resolve that, I would come and add instructions in the prompt, right?
Okay. In that case, can I read books in the event? Let's ask something like that. I just want to see how much it cooks up. Can
Sure.
I read
Can
books? Yeah.
Oops.
In the
The
event.
event. Okay, and here, like, I apologize for the confusion in my previous response. It seems I misunderstood your intention. To better answer your question about reading notes, we need to understand the nature of these AWS group events. Let me fetch more details, guidelines. Get docs. It's trying to get docs. Thank you for your I repeat the point, but it doesn't seem to provide any specific details about the event structures or rules about reading during the events. Based on the limited information we have, here's what I can tell you. These events are typically AWS user group meetings, which are usually focused on presentation, discussions, and networking around AWS technologies. The events are likely to be interactive and engaging, with speakers presenting on specific topics related to AWS. While there is no explicit rule mentioned about reading during walks, it's generally expected that attendees will be actively participating in the sessions. Reading books during the event might not be the best way to engage. If you
No,
are
it's pretty good. It's actually sticking to the information given, and that's good.
exactly, yes.
Yeah.
if you are interested, I would recommend. And it's saying like, okay, if you want to attend, it has like a provided link. So like get into the link, register, attend the event with an open mind to learn. So it's giving like a kind of generic response. However, like as you have mentioned, like it's really good. So yeah, I guess that's it.
Can it add a new events automatically to the docs or something? To know, right?
Sure. Okay, let us do that again. And for example, we can test it together. But like the good part about having these MCPs, at the end of the day, it's running a function, right? And this function is reading from the docs. So for example, if I have my client running, right? If I do, for example, a new event, which is, let's say, 16, AWS user group, etc. And I would say, okay, what are the upcoming events? What's happening now? It's basically running my get events and oops, it missed it. But again, like it should
I think it's not
say,
saved. Maybe.
oops. Yeah, let me ask again. Get the recent or get or list, let's say list all events. Okay, now it may be depending on it may be depending basically on its memory. Okay, it's not the from this chart. So this chart we have already run it. Let's check. So we have checked it once, but now it's checking it again. So it should be listing all the events. It shouldn't be utilizing the event details. It's utilizing get events in my main server. It's not. Let me check my get events, return events. So get all scheduled events. Let me check it again. And here, if I say list all events, say it's saying in here I revised. So maybe in the cache or something, it's just depending on that at that level. Now it should return all events. Again, this think about this like if we have data in my database and this data is being changed, of course, every time my function is being executed or queried, I should get the updated version of that.
I think the question was more like as a client, like when I'm asking the agent, can I add a new event? Like,
yeah, now since we don't have a function or a tool to add a new event, it won't be able to. But similarly, as we have done for adding a new sponsor or adding a new speaker, of course, we can add a new event, right?
hmm.
And like again, like we can build this really quick. Like if I utilize my cursor, for example, this is an event by admin. So mcp.tool, and I would say description equal to add a, or like let's say schedule a new event, and then let's say define schedule event, event ID. Okay, then here it should events.append. Exactly, return event scheduled successfully. Now I have added another. Let's do exit. Let's do clear. Oops, and let's run it again. And now I'm gonna say, for example, the AWS user group admin. I want to schedule an event uh, in, let's say, 09/01/2025, entitled, uh, let's say, Fargate is magic. Okay, and speaker to be announced. Anything else? I gave it title. Okay. Okay, we need to give it, I guess, event ID as well. Event ID, Meetup magic. Just playing with it. So I would be happy to schedule the event. It's Saturday. Great news. The event has been scheduled successfully. Here's a summary. It's giving event ID, title, etc. If I come here to my docs, I should see events. Okay, it added it in the memory in here, right? In its memory. I didn't add it to events itself. Let me check events that append. Uh, da, da, da. Of course, let's check it. Okay, so can you list now all scheduled events? Let's see. And now it's giving me the 4 event as well, which is basically Meetup Magic, Fargate is Magic. Speaker to
And
be
is it
announced.
also in the docs? In the docs also it's there now?
It didn't add it to the docs, however, it added it in the events, since like I'm getting the events and I'm just appending in my memory here.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I guess it's gonna be that's it from my side. Again, I will open it for kind of questions. Guys, if you have any questions, concerns, would love to address that. Perfect, perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Mohammed, is there anywhere GitHub lab you share this demo example or and the presentation or somewhere else?
Sure, I will connect with the team. We'll check how we